And this is a gameplay preview of the latest line linking casual puzzle game from King. It's called Luna Light Saga now. It was originally called Skybright Saga, and they just added a new package to the soft launch last week. I think players in Brazil are currently playing this one. So there were some changes. I'm going to go over the gameplay real quick and talk about some cool things and what I think. There's a big match right there. So if you're wondering about line linkers, the first example of a line linking game that King came out with was Blossom Blast Saga. If you have played that, you know that you drag a line across from one flower to the next, and you build chains or links. So you line link, and the little loading screen there kind of shows you that once you link together more than 5, then things start to happen. So right here, we're going to match the same color, the yellows. When we match 5 of them, it sends off a fireball that clears out that row. Line linking games aren't like match 3s where you can have matches happen in the cascades. You only have the match you have, so this little added burst can help you solve your, complete your goals. One thing about it too is like here you can make the longest possible link, and that would be helpful due to the power up. But I just wanted to show there how you can actually redirect by picking which one is the last link in the line. You can redirect which way that the fireball will shoot. So the very first levels, they just get you familiar with how the matching works. And you see that you got to collect points. We don't have anything else going on. Just get used to the game. Make the longest links possible. Here you can see once you get over that many, then you get this really great explosive burst that kind of clears out everything. The design of the game has changed, I guess twice now. There was graphic changes and things like that, but this is the most complete that it's looked. And we have this character. It's like a little fairy character. She wasn't in it before. Also, there is it's just a little clearer, I think, for players who start out, that how things work. A little bit more of an explanation. What I like about this game is the setup is the setup of the matching makes it. There's a lot more thought that goes into it. The only part I don't know is if people will like this, or the average player will like this, or if the average player will think it's too complicated. The game Skybright, the original version, it had, I think, 50 or 60 levels, and those were all pretty doable. There was maybe 2 or 3 that were hard, but it is a little bit. It's a little bit of a more complicated mechanic as far as the gameplay goes. I like it a lot. I think it makes it for a really interesting game. In the original, I thought that the graphics were, underdeveloped. I'm not saying they were bad, but I think they were just not really fully realized, which is a big thing for King games. They have, I think, one of the most, developed looks, and all of their games usually seem to have a really nice, really nice graphical interface. So I figured that would get better, but what I liked about it, right off the bat, was I really liked the mechanics. It's a combination of a normal line linker with this extra you know, this extra fireball situation, and sometimes you really have to plan things out in the you know, in the way that you make your matches. It's not just like, oh, there's 3 red ones, I'll match those. There's 4 blue ones. You know, you have to say, here we have ice now, and some holes in the boards and things like that make it a little bit more complicated. You have to think about managing your moves and using your, you know, your shooting stars to hit where you need to clear it out. So let me know in the comments what you guys think, if you're playing it already, or if you haven't, you're just curious about new games that come out. Do you think that games should be a little bit more interesting in the way their mechanics work, or do you like just the tried and true just slap some different pictures on there, and let's just do the same thing that the original Candy Crush did, you know, 4 years ago or whatever? I feel like that the games that follow the latter kind of do better, which is confusing in some ways, but I guess, you know, in other ways, you know, everybody's different. They like different things, and it seems to me that games that go outside of that don't seem to do as well. But you know, I think that this is fun and interesting, and I think that if they make the graphics really, really good, and there's you know, an appealing storyline and stuff like that, I think it'll be popular, at least amongst a certain percentage of players. And I think that players who, you know, want something that's a little more challenging and requires a little more thought will like this game. Don't know that translates into, you know, big popularity or not. So these little star or suns, they're zodiac signs, they're called. They, on this level, they're kind of littered around the board. That comes up a lot more lately. And when you make chains with one, if you make chains with one, it'll explode. If you make chains with 2, it leads to a bigger kind of multi-directional one. Right there was an example of how I used the line. I didn't go to the end. I used it to shoot that. And on the next level, I think that's coming up, you'll see that we can earn these during the level as we go. So let's see if that happens. Each time, especially as you go up, there's a different zodiac character at the bottom, and as you make links, you fill up a bar, and then they'll actually add to the boards a couple of zodiac signs. The first one is a lion. He's called Leo, and I think he comes out in this level. There he is. So the introduction, you see that there's 2 that start out right away, and it says, "Look, Leo is here to help you out." In Skybright, there were coins that you collected as you went, and that directly filled up his thing. But now it seems like they simplified that a bit, and it's just matches in general. So the bigger the match, the faster you fill up his bar. You can see those are the longer I mean, there's no incentive except for the direction of the way you want the shooting star to go, other than, you know, like if you're trying to clear a specific square or whatever, or shoot a zodiac sign, to make short ones. Otherwise, the longest link is always going to be the best, just because you get so much. You see there, I cut it short so I could shoot the corner. And you know, these are obviously the very easy levels in the very beginning, but they definitely, and at least in Skybright, the Skybright version of it, there was definitely some really cool levels where you had to absolutely plan out every one to try to get to the ice or to the clouds or whatever it was that you had to clear out. So I went ahead and played through level 10 here. I try to think if there's anything new beyond what we've seen so far in the first 10 levels. We have the Zodiac here, and then we've seen the clouds. The clouds block squares. We have to clear them out. We clear those out by making matches next to them or shooting them. We've seen the ice. As far as I remember, the ice is always just one level, and the pieces sit on top. So anytime you make a match or shoot, like here, we'll clear out this whole top row by making our shooting star and all of the ice that's in the line. So it's just a regular removal, sort of like a blocker, except for it's underneath. It doesn't really block anything. It's just a placeholder we have to get rid of. There's points levels. There are collections levels. We won't see any of those. Those come up later. At least I'm presuming that they're still in there. Those would be like when there's one color that's, you have to collect, 25 of one color. There could also be ones where there's no way to make a match with the colors. Like say the whole board was covered with everything except for red. It had like 3 red and they were all separated, and there was no way that you could actually match those together. So you'd have to set up stars and the zodiac signs to clear out all the different ones. Those were some of the challenging ones that I remember. We have to clear the ice levels, and I can't think of another level type besides those, but there could very well be. The original game had 60 levels, and this one, at least in the description, says it has over 100. So I'm guessing they added a bunch of levels, and now you can actually connect to Facebook. You couldn't do that before. You couldn't connect to King. So now there's actually some chance to send and receive lives. But I also lost my level progress, since it's a whole different name and package, that I couldn't sync my level progress. So I'll have to play through them all again to find out how far it goes. But to summarize the whole experience, I really like the game. I kind of hope it's popular. I'm at this point where it's really hard to add new games to my schedule of what I can play, because there's just not enough time. I've been working to add some new channel helpers that are playing some different games, but it's difficult. It's playing these kinds of games is a lot of fun, and explaining them is what I really kind of enjoy. But there's most of us who make them, we have regular jobs, and YouTube doesn't actually pay the bills. Not even close. So it's hard as an individual to play all the games that come out and keep up with them. So like I said, I'm trying to add some other helpers, but that also, they have the same restrictions as far as time goes too. So I hope this becomes a popular one. I hope people like the differences. I think Blossom was popular. I think that had a pretty good number of players as far as their non-match 3 games goes. It's not as wildly popular as the franchise games. Jelly obviously was the last game to get really popular, like top 10 popular, after Soda, those are both directly franchise games from the Candy Crush series. And in the next, probably this month, we're going to see Farm Hero Super come out, and that's it's another franchiser that's sure to be big. And then the Pet Rescue Patrol, It's out as Rescue Clicker right now. It'll be out, I think, probably within the next 2 or 3 months as well. So it seems like it's a little bit harder for the games that are non franchise to really, explode, because with the one thing that's great about having a big loyal player base is people keep playing your games, but they became loyal because of a particular title. So I think that anybody who played Pet Rescue is going to love Pet Rescue Patrol. Anybody who played Farm Heroes is going to love Farm Hero Super, because they do a great job of updating the mechanics and the graphics and the game engines that they use to build them. So they're always, they're aware of what worked in the originals, and they always add something cool and interesting in the new one. So it'll be interesting to see how a game like this does. I think this game might be a little bit more, and I might be biased in the thought process, but I think this game might be a little bit more of catering to the players who want something that's challenging and interesting, not just keeping up with the status quo of the games that are already out there. And so it does fulfill a spot there. We'll see, we'll just see how it goes with so many games coming out all the time. It's just interesting to see how this genre will evolve over the next period of time. So definitely leave a comment below if you have a question about this or any of the other new games. I got an Are You Serious game preview coming out. I've also done some gameplay previews for other brands that I'm going to put out. I think I'm just going to start having a whole playlist of different games that are out, and those will be coming out in the next week or so. Jelly Saga should be out, I'm guessing, tomorrow, so we'll definitely keep up with those as they come out, and all the other games we've been playing. I'm going to go ahead and let this continue to the end of level 10. Level 10 is actually a pretty tough one out of the first 10, I guess. And then we'll end the video, and you guys can tell me what you think. So yeah, this was, out of all the levels, they weren't that difficult, obviously, and they shouldn't be. 10 was the one that kind of really shows the complexity of how this can work. So I'll go ahead and talk a little bit of the strategy of this. Everything's separated, so, and it's angled in the middle, so it's not easy to clear out the big sections at the same time. So we're going to want to use the links that are going to obviously help us out, but we also have to conserve moves, and we have these big bars at the top and the bottom, so we want to make sure we take care of those as well. So not getting, like, say here, we have these 6 blue on the left. We can't really connect them all in a meaningful way. So what we have to do is we have to kind of think about, like, how can we get the biggest payoff. And I decided to shoot the corner because that might come up and be helpful later, instead of taking out the middle one. I just figured there'd be more chance to get a match in the middle. So so like, here's an example where we can't really clear any of them out. So that's where, that's where the game starts to get more complicated. In the beginning, where you can make matches all the time and always do something. Like here, we had 2 moves in a row where there isn't anything that's particularly helpful. So, we're thinking more of like, what section of the board can we clear out and get things to fall where we need them to, and is there a way we can set up a zodiac sign, or like in this case, the green, I can shoot this and take out that last corner there. So, a lot more thinking than just swiping or matching. And even with Blossom, Blossom, obviously you're growing your flowers so they explode. But here we're actually, we have an actionable thing where it's going to go, and it can go in multiple directions, and we can actually control to a certain extent how it reacts. So it's pretty cool. I ended up catching it on the next to last move, and we'll see how this one evolves. I guess it's probably not that hard, but it just, in the first 20 levels, you don't really expect one where you really have to try that hard. It's just introducing the game, so maybe they'll make that one give that one a couple more moves in the end. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the game. Please subscribe to my channel, and you get to get more cool gameplay previews as soon as they come out. And like the video if you found it enjoyable. I'll talk to you soon.